my name is James Decosemo and this is my sales manager presentation. I've interviewed 3 sales managers, all from around my hometown in England, so I thought it would give a different perspective from what everyone else has given. My first interview was with David Neal, who's a sales manager at Dixon, which is a electronics company, and he's out of the Stockton-on-Tees location, which is 20 minutes from my house. He was promoted from within from a sales position in 2005, so has now been there almost 10 years. My first question was, what are your responsibilities? And his reply was to ensure his sales team is working well to reach their targets that have been set for them, to look for new ways to ensure that we maintain high standards, to push to exceed targets and get better, and to evaluate his team and himself to see how to improve. So clearly he was all about trying to make sure that his sales force was working well together, and making sure that they were always moving forward, not stagnant. My next question was, how is your sales force structured? And he said that it was based around the product rather than customer. As it's a department store, he had different salespeople for different departments. So people were specialised with knowledge on televisions or entertainment, and then they were really detail oriented, so when they were selling to their customers they could give the most important information, and then to report back to him he would come back with their sales numbers, and then he would ask for a report on what tactics went well and what didn't, and then he would then talk about with them what they feel that they could do better next time. My next question was, what would you look for when hiring new staff? And he talked about energy, personality. He wanted someone that would fit well with his team rather than just being an individual, making sure that they were having the same goals as him and his team. And he also wanted someone who could learn on the job quickly, that he didn't have to spend too much time training, so he wanted them to be independent, making sure that they could learn for themselves rather than being coached through everything, as he feels sales is more what happens in the moment rather than scripted. My next question was, how is training conducted? He said that training was done on site with the staff as they were hired. It was based around their product, so that they knew all about their products in their department, and then they would also get a general knowledge about other departments, so that if they needed to swap around, that wouldn't be such a big deal, and if they could cover or even get moved to a different department, that wouldn't be such a big deal either. My next question was strategies that have been implemented. He says he uses 2 different approaches, the sales growth approach and the sales up approach. He uses the sales growth approach to make sure that his sales are growing throughout the week, and then his sales up approach as well. I then asked him, how do you lead your team? He says using communication and leading by example. He says he likes to make sure that people know that he can do the job as well, so if people are struggling or new, he has someone new, he goes in, takes them under his wing and lets them shadow him for a day and shows how he feels it can be done, and then asks them to do it, and he follows them for a bit just to make sure that they're doing it the right way. And he also likes to meet up every week with some of his newer salespeople, and then maybe a lot less often as they get more into it, to discuss what other techniques they use and what might be effective later on, or what they've learned from that day. I asked him how he then develops his workforce. He says that he likes a little bit of competition, so he has monthly salesperson of the month, and then eventually a salesperson of the year, which have some rewards to it. He says there's a bonus for the salesperson of the year and just a little plaque for the person who wins salesperson of the month. So he said it's a good way to get people working hard to get their sales without being too overly competitive, so that it inhibits them when they won't need to work as a team. So I said, what motivations and rewards do you give? He said there is a bonus scheme for the salesperson of the year, and then there's also the salesperson of the month, who just gets his name, I think they get their name on the wall or something like that, so it's a nice incentive to make sure that they're pushing to be the best salesman they can be. I asked him how he evaluates his employees. He does it through the number of sales, making sure that they're hitting the target that he sets for them. Some self-evaluation, so he sits down and then talks to them. As he said before, he likes to communicate, so he sits down and talks to his sales staff, making sure that they ask them how they're doing, how they feel they're doing, and then he also evaluates them himself. He likes to walk around his floor, make sure that people are doing it, so he can then pick up on what needs to be improved. His biggest challenges and his biggest rewards, his biggest challenge is to continually improve his sales team and their numbers. And he likes to use new techniques, he likes to research, maybe go to conferences, and then he likes to implement these new techniques. He says his biggest reward is when these techniques start to pay off. And finally, his favourite part of the job and his least favourite, he says his favourite is meeting new people, as he is a people person, which generally salespeople are, especially the good ones. And his least favourite is to leave customers unsatisfied, which is obviously not the aim of a salesperson, so that is a good least favourite bit to have. I then interviewed a second person from around my area. He's from Cleveland. His name is Alan Lee. He's a sales manager at Lookers PLC, which is about 3-4 miles away from my house actually. He's been in the current position for 6 years, so he also has quite a bit of experience. So again, I asked him what his responsibilities were. He says that his sales team performance is obviously his main responsibility. He wants to make sure that he has happy customers, and he likes to retain customer loyalty and make sure that they are coming back to his company, because that's how his business is run. His sales force structure is again product based, so he has his salespeople in specific departments again, making sure that they're really informed on what's new, and then they can then pass this on to the customer so that they can look like they know what they're talking about, and then the trust can grow. This means that his sales are even higher, he says, so that's good. He works off customer evaluation, so every time he sends out a sale, he likes to give just a quick review to get back from the customer to make sure that everything went well, and then he also always holds weekly meetings to say what went well or what they can do next time to make it even better. And then he also gives stuff that he's learned maybe when he's gone away or learned some new stuff that he's researched. So that's all happens in his meetings. So again, when he's looking for new staff, he likes to have experience. He doesn't want to really teach too much. He wants people who he can integrate really quickly into his group. He wants a good personality that fits around his sales team, and he wants to make sure that they're intelligent. It helps. He says it helps really with the integrating process. For training, it's conducted in company, but as he looks for experience, it's not too long. Again, it's based around the products, making sure that the sales staff are informed of all of the detail of the product, which they can then pass on to the customer. He says the majority of the training is on the job, therefore learning as they go, and that makes it, he says it speeds up the process as well. Strategies he's brought, he is all about returning customers. I know a lot of his customers are returning. He is always looking to build that relationship between the customer and the salesperson so that they can quickly get them sorted as soon as they can, and that gives them better reviews online, which is how they get a lot of their deals. I asked him how he leads. He says he likes to ensure having a happy team. He thinks that a happy team equals good numbers. Again, going through his weekly meetings, he always wants to make sure that people are pleased and that are happy to be working there. To develop his workforce, he always says that all he's aiming for is to keep people happy. This is through communication, learning what they want, and then that will give them more incentive to work hard in his eyes. Something I'm not quite sure I agree with, but that seems to be working for him. So he doesn't actually offer any tangible motivation. He just likes to keep them happy at all times. So I asked him, does he not feel he needs something just to push them even further? And he says people have said that, but in his eyes his team are doing really well, so he feels like that's his way of doing it, and he wants to keep it that way. He His biggest challenge is motivation. He says he sometimes his sales force does go off task. That's when he starts to think about maybe bringing in some bonus or something, but he says he's not got there yet. He always wants to make sure that the customer is happy to ensure that they return, which also obviously comes from his sales staff working hard for him. His favourite part of the job is working with his team, knowing that they're happy and working well together, and seeing the hard work pay off. So obviously, again, he's all about this team, making sure that they're pleased again, and that's obviously what he feels worked well for him, and he obviously enjoys it. My third interview was then with Craig Parker, who was a sales manager at BMW Cooper in Teesside. Again, not too far away from my house, but he's only been in his current position for 11 months. He again was recruited from within, so he knew his way around the company. His responsibilities, he felt, were to drive the business forward, develop his team, lead by example, and maintain good customer reviews. He said that he feels that a lot of his business comes from his reviews, so he always wants to make sure that his sales staff are working to keep everyone happy. He also mentioned that he wanted to change the perception of how car dealers are seen, so they would like to, if they can't help them, maybe pass them on to another garage. He says that it's really been changing how the reviews have been going online, and that's actually increased his sales, even though he's maybe sending them to a competitor. The structure of his sales force, he says, is then client-based, because he feels that building the relationships will pay off in the reviews and build more business for them in the future. When he's hiring new sales staff, he's always looking for people who like to improve themselves, so they're self-motivated, and he also wants them to already have a good base selling skills. He says he'd put them through a little challenge in the interview to sell something simple, see how they can do that, and from there that's a lot of what he bases his decision off when he's hiring someone new. The training, he says they move to a contractor for external training as they feel it has better results and it is a lot quicker. They then, once they've gone through that process, move into 2 weeks of on-site training, shadowing someone who's already working there, and then even maybe it could be himself, and then he moves them up to go by themselves, obviously starting with lower numbers as their aim and building forward as they get a little bit more comfortable with the position. Again, he uses the sales growth and upsales strategies as he feels that they are what he needs for his company. When he leads his team, he says he uses communication. He leads by example, so if he feels someone is struggling, he'll go out and he'll show them, this is what I would have done, and then they can then go mirror that if they need to, or they can learn from that. And if he sees, if they need to, people come and ask him, and can you help me with this sale, he'll go out there and he'll push the finish just to get it over, make sure that they get the sale. He also deals with feedback from his staff, making sure that they're pleased, and if they're feeling that they're struggling with something, they can come back to him and they can ask him how to improve. He feels like communication is a really important thing as a leader. The motivation to give is coming from his company mainly. They get the discounts, there's a competitive employment package, they can earn holidays the longer they go, and then there's bonuses for exceeding targets and getting more sales. To evaluate his team, he uses the numbers and then brings them in individually and talks about why their numbers are high or low and what they think they can do to improve the next time that they need to go in the next month to maybe get them higher. This is again, if you go back to how he was talking about how he always does his meetings, this is also involved in those meetings. He feels his biggest challenge is ensuring his sales staff feel they can talk to him, and then finding the time to do this whilst keeping them happy and going through the administrative aspects, so the financials and stuff like this. He feels like that's his time needs to be well spent in all aspects, and he sometimes struggles with that. And the biggest reward is seeing the reviews that they're given online and seeing that he's got happy customers and that they're recommending his branch to some other people. And finally, he likes best about his job, the reward of getting numbers at the end of the month is his favourite part, making sure that he's getting the sales and sees that they've been improving since he's come in his 11-month stint. And he feels the worst part was, he said that 2 weeks ago he had to fire someone, and that was the worst thing he's had to do since he's been hired as the sales manager. So that was a review of 3 different sales managers from a different part of the world. I thought it gave a different aspect, and we had some different ranges of experience, and there were some different ways of going about it. And I thought that they all seemed to have been working really well, and they were all pleased with how it was going. So thank you.